Let's dive into one of the most polarizing constitutional debates of our time, birthright citizenship. You might have heard about President Trump's executive order issued on his first day back in office, attempting to restrict this century-old principle. But this move has set off a legal firestorm, with 22 states and advocacy groups stepping up to challenge its legality. So, what's the crux of this debate? Well, at the heart of it all is the 14th Amendment. Passed in the aftermath of the Civil War, it guarantees that anyone born or naturalized in the U.S. is a citizen. This amendment was landmark legislation aimed at securing the rights of freed slaves, but its reach has extended far beyond that, shaping what citizenship means in America for over 150 years. Now, Trump's executive order seeks to reinterpret this amendment, arguing that children born to non-citizens or temporary visa holders are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and thus ineligible for automatic citizenship. But here's where it gets tricky. Past Supreme Court rulings, like the famous 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐽 decision in 1898, have firmly upheld the principle that anyone born on U.S. soil is a citizen, no matter their parentage. That precedent has been untouched for a century. That's a big deal in constitutional law. Play this clip.
It's planned to end birthright citizenship for children born to non-U.S. citizens. I just want to get your thoughts on where you think that issue is going.
So Trump is trying to end this practice of birthright citizenship, which is based in the 14th Amendment, goes back to 1868. So far, every court, every lower federal court to consider Trump's position, 6 at least, have rejected it. And that's Democratic appointed judges, Republican appointed judges. Now, the Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to step in at least on an emergency basis. The Supreme Court could have rejected that, but yesterday they said, well, we want to see your briefs. Now, there's two issues. The one issue that the Supreme Court may consider is a longstanding problem of, can an individual district court judge stop something nationwide? That's a problem that's been going on for decades now. But with respect to the birthright citizenship question itself, I don't think there's any real chance that the court sides with Donald Trump here. I think birthright citizenship is long established. It's in the Constitution. Courts have upheld it for over a century now.
And let me tell you, the opposition is adamant. Federal courts in Maryland, Massachusetts, and Washington state have already halted the order, labeling it unconstitutional. Legal scholars, including critics of Trump's policies, highlight the dangers of tampering with such a deeply rooted constitutional right. You see, the amendment's language is what some call plain text clear. Birthright citizenship isn't some loophole. It's an integral part of who we are as a nation. But here's the pressing question. What happens if this policy is upheld? Opponents worry it could undermine the protections we all take for granted. And when courts start bending clear constitutional principles to fit political agendas, well, the ripple effects could be profound. It's not just about birthright citizenship. It's about safeguarding the Constitution itself. Now, let's switch gears and talk about nationwide injunctions, a judicial tool that has honestly become something of a lightning rod in American policy debates. These injunctions essentially allow a single federal judge to block the implementation of federal policies across the entire country. Yes, the whole country, not just within their district. And while they've existed for decades, their use has surged recently, especially during administrations facing fierce legal opposition. The Trump administration, for instance, has been vehemently critical of these injunctions, claiming they overstep judicial bounds and hamstring the executive branch's ability to govern effectively. Sarah Harris, Trump's acting Solicitor General, even described their proliferation as reaching epidemic proportions. Now, that's quite a claim. Her argument is that these injunctions should only apply to the plaintiffs in a case or within the geographic bounds of the court issuing the decision. But here's the counterpoint. Wouldn't that risk creating a patchwork of conflicting policies depending on where you live or even travel? Critics of these injunctions, including some conservative Supreme Court justices, argue they over-consolidate judicial power, letting one judge effectively dictate national policy. But supporters see it differently. They believe these broad injunctions are often the only swift and efficient way to stop unconstitutional or harmful policies from taking root. And like with Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship, these injunctions are sometimes seen as the last line of defense for marginalized communities who stand to lose the most. Take healthcare policy, for example. In a recent case, a nationwide injunction stalled efforts that would have restricted access to Medicaid-funded treatments for lower-income families. Advocates argued that without the injunction, people in certain states might immediately lose access to essential care, while others wouldn't, a disparity that could deepen existing inequalities. By temporarily leveling the playing field, the injunction bought time for a broader legal review, ensuring no one fell through the cracks prematurely. But let's not sugarcoat this. The stakes here go beyond immigration or health care. They touch on the very balance of power among our branches of government. If nationwide injunctions are curtailed, does that tip the scales towards a more emboldened executive? Or, if they're allowed to proliferate unchecked, could they erode the judiciary's credibility? It's a tightrope walk, no doubt about it. So, where could all of this lead? That's the real question we need to grapple with here. If the Supreme Court eventually rules in favor of Trump's executive order, the ripple effects they could be monumental. First and foremost, such a decision could drastically reshape immigration law, creating new barriers and uncertainties for people who've, lived and worked here, often for decades. It's not just legalese. It's livelihoods, families, futures at stake. And let's think about what this means in terms of civil rights. Altering the interpretation of the 14th Amendment could set a dangerous precedent for how we view constitutional protections. If the plain text of the amendment can be, let's say, reimagined to exclude certain groups, what's stopping similar efforts against other rights we think of as ironclad? I mean, today is birthright citizenship. Tomorrow, who knows what might be up for reinterpretation? And honestly, it's hard not to focus on the people who stand to lose the most. Children born to undocumented immigrants, in particular, already face enough challenges. Denying them citizenship could place immense burdens on them, from accessing education to health care to just feeling secure in their own country. Can you imagine growing up in a place you call home, but constantly living under the shadow of potential rejection? It's profoundly disheartening. I was recently reminded of this through one of my own patients, a young woman, undocumented, who's balancing high-risk pregnancy and complex cardiac needs. If this policy were enforced, her child would join thousands of others left in, a kind of legal limbo. That opens a Pandora's box for healthcare providers like me, trying to deliver care amidst bureaucratic chaos fueled by policy shifts. The consequences extend far beyond citizenship. It disrupts the very fabric of our communities. And at the end of the day, what's at stake here is bigger than any single case or moment. Birthright citizenship isn't just about laws. It's about identity, equality, and the promise that no matter where your roots lie, this country is committed to granting you a fair shot. That's why these debates matter, and they matter so profoundly. It's about safeguarding what defines us as a nation, our shared values, not just our borders. That wraps up today's episode of The Real 411. I want to personally thank each and every one of you for tuning in and for your continued support. It means more than you know. If you found value in today's discussion, please drop a comment, follow us on all social media platforms, and let us know what topics you'd like to see us cover next. Be sure to sign up for our email newsletter so you never miss an update or exclusive insight. And if you believe in independent media that digs deeper and dares to tell the truth, please consider following The Real 411 on Substack and Fanbase. We offer both free and paid subscriptions, and your support helps us continue producing content that informs, empowers, and sparks real conversation. Thanks again for being part of this journey. Because remember, the story is never just the headline. Until next time, stay informed, stay bold, and stay real.